Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to make a short audio-only video for you to get some clarification on some of the upcoming assignments, the 4 reflection essays, the midterm test, and also the midterm and the final, both of which are online. So the first thing I want to do is to go to a breakdown of what we were discussing earlier at the beginning of the term, and that was the method of evaluation. So by review, final grade or mark will be determined as follows. There are 4 short written assignments worth, they're 600 to 800 words, not 6,800, but under 1,000 words for sure, and each worth 15% of the final mark. There are also 2 online tests, a midterm and a final, each worth 20. So you can see the 4 written assignments are worth 60, and the 2 tests are worth 40, totaling the 100%. So the main issue here that's coming up at the end of next week, so week 4, will be the first of 4 reflection essays. And that's what I kind of want to break down. So these are subjective reflections on the material. They're centered on a topic that's discussed in class or in the textbook, or even in one of the videos that I link to the video lecture for you to have a look at by way of an example. That maybe one in particular you really liked, or it got you thinking about another one that you may have seen, and you can discuss both to compare and contrast, for example. The textbook contains sections called Pause and Reflect, and those are really where I took many of the ideas. Now, hopefully I don't have to say this because some of you have started it, but the Pause and Reflect section of the textbook does not need to be completed every time you see it. I use those as ideas for short essays, but that's it. They don't need to be completed every week. So the written assignments can have some scholarly research, secondary sources with in-text citations. They don't have to because they are reflections, and they can come from either the textbook itself or from the PowerPoint slides. The idea here is an intellectual reflection based on the student's chosen topic. So I'm going to stop the share here and go over to this one, which is me going in as a student in FOL. And if you click on evaluation and down to submissions, you can also see them under content, but I've set them up in here as well. So let's say we were going to take a look at reflection essay number 1, end of module 4. So not the end of this week, but next week. So it's January the 29th. Okay, so we scroll down and we see that this is reflection essay number 1, due the end of module 4. See drop box or submission box for exact due date. It's the 29th, so the last Sunday of January. 15% of the final mark, 600 to 800 words, 11 or 12 point font. A font I can read. I prefer Times New Roman, but as long as it's legible, that's all that matters. Okay. What are we doing here? In these reflective essays, students are given the opportunity to pause and reflect on some of the ideas and concepts that we have studied during the first 3 modules of the course. Now, it could actually be the 4, but the first module is really just a sort of introduction to it. So it's the first 3, 2, 3, and 4. Students can pick a topic from one of the 3 main areas that we've studied so far. Those would be the origins and evolution of humor, earliest philosophies that are described and defined in Plato, Aristotle, and Cicero, and superiority theories of humor. So what I want you to do is just hold off for a moment, and I'll scroll down to the essay topics. But I do want to mention that students can come up with their own. Feel free to use some of the examples of the assigned videos, some of the extra readings. But here's the thing. This is the part that matters right here. So the main goal with reflective essays is to balance your own voice, so your subjective voice and your ideas and opinions, but of course, elevate those opinions to at least a fact by an example. So your own voice with the ideas discussed in the course materials. And that's where you can reflect on ideas that are discussed that have to do with the origins, the evolution, early philosophies, or the superiority theories of humor. So when discussing a particular problem and issue, please use the same language, the terminology that we assign some of these notions to define them the same way. Superiority theories is just simply what they're called. Incongruity, relief theory that we're going to look at later on. These have particular names, so try using those as much as you can as you work into the essay, a balance between your own subjective voice, your ideas, and the ideas discussed in the material. So note, students reserve the right to 1, devise their own original essay topics, or 2, to modify the essay topics described above. It's actually below, sorry. All I ask is, if you do so, to email me so I can look at the topic and go, yeah, that can be done in 600 to 800 words. You don't want something so sprawling and difficult to manage that you're going to be spending so much time on it that it's no longer a reflection, or in fact, no longer pleasant. It's a lot of work. So consider the 2 pages to 2.5 pages of material to just work through an idea. Okay, so we're going to be doing this, although it's reflective, defending our position in a debate with reasoned critical thinking. Why do you think these things? Show me some proof, not only some examples, but why those are good examples. So keep the ideas factual as well. Communicate clearly, concisely, and correctly in written language in this case, and respond to written or visual messages in a manner that ensures effective communication. Okay, so some of the following topics here. Now, keep in mind, answer only one of these, not every single one. So one essay on one topic. The first one, what's the difference between laughter and humor? How are they related? It sounds like the two are essentially the same, but we find out in the text that they're slightly different. What makes them different? It's pretty simple. 2, think of some of the ways our ancestors may have benefited from humor. Clues might be found in how humor features in modern life. We use humor to deflate a difficult situation, to cut the ice at parties, to make others feel comfortable. Benefited, I should be benefited. So let me fix that. I will go back after and take a look at this. Haven't looked at it for a few weeks. Okay, so we have, first of all, the difference between laughter and humor. Second, how our ancestors and how we have used humor in modern life and social life. Number 3, does humor differ from the things that we call emotions, love, hate, fear, and so on? Are there ways in which humor might be related to these emotions? If you remember, I believe in module 2, possibly 3, we talk about the differences and similarities between humor and emotion. And here you can pick either one. I have a personal preference, but that does not mean that you can turn around and say the opposite, because it's about persuasion. Persuade me that humor is an emotion or is not. It's entirely up to you. 4, is the issue of excess relevant to humor? Overdoing, in other words. Think about ways in which it might be possible to overdo comedy. 5, most people would argue that an ability to be funny is often desirable when it comes to public speaking. What do you think, or why do you think that is? Is that something that should be cultivated? Also, you occasionally hear people speak about the truth being revealed through humor. In what sense might this be possible? You've heard the expression, the sugar-coated pill, right? The pill is going to benefit you, and it's sugar-coated, but it has an element of truth, right? You need to take this medication to feel better and maybe think better. So humor can be used as a vehicle to deliver harsh truths about something. And that's an effective way for people to be laughing and thinking at the same time. 6, can you recall a humorous situation in which laughter wasn't in one way or another at someone else's expense? Do we always feel superior when we laugh? We're kind of living in a world these days where absurdist humor is much more popular because it's not harmful to another specific individual or group of individuals. It's much more inclusive. All of us feel a degree of absurdity in one way or another in our daily lives. So to talk about the absurdity of a given situation clearly keeps it inclusive. Anyone that experiences it can recognize it and laugh at it. But superiority theory tends to think of the idea of a joke at someone else's expense. In other words, here, can we create humor that isn't at another person's expense? And I've given you a brief example. Absurdist humor is one way to do it. 7, We often laugh at things that are out of step with the norm, someone who walks and talks in a different way, when the norm is in some way overstated, excessively rigid and repetitive. Think about why this might be so. And in superiority theory, Henri Bergson is the one that talks about elasticity and rigidity, and the way in which we should be kind of balanced between the two. We know when to behave and follow the rules, but we should also be able to, as the expression is here in North America, to stick handle, right? Stick handle through a situation. So there is a way in which we can balance these two. And what happens when someone goes too far in one or the other direction? Therein lies the humor. And number 8, is there an element of competition in humorous situations? Can you think of any occasion for humor that doesn't have a competitive edge? Now that ties in a little bit with superiority theory as well. This competitive edge to laugh at another person's misfortune. Schadenfreude is another idea. That's what this is, and also to undercut or undermine a competitor through laughter, through humor, to call them something. If you think back, it seems like it was 100 years ago, but in 2016, when Donald Trump was running for the presidency, he would be very busy undercutting other people. But this man literally does not have a humorous bone in his body. He can't take a joke. So he can dish it out, but he can't take it. And what he would do was undermine his opponents by just saying outrageous things that would have people laughing at them. When you do that, you undercut the opponent. So there is sometimes in humor, in specific humor situations, that degree of competitiveness between 2 or 3 individuals as they vie for, who's got the sharpest wit or who's got the best comeback. It doesn't always happen, but it is something you can certainly consider. So those are the essay topics. Send that into reflection essay number 1. Submit it in Word or a PDF file. Don't submit it in Pages because I can't open it. I don't have a Mac. I only have a PC. And also follow, if you need to, APA or MLA for formatting. The school, as a science school and a business school, follows APA. If you don't know it, it's not that difficult. I have information available for you to look at. In fact, I'm going to go here, and I should still be able to see all of this. Go to Content, and still sharing. And if you go to information on essay writing, I've got some information on APA citation. It's a short version. It's a chapter in a book, but condensed down to like a couple of pages. This is a glossary of terms that have to do with sort of the philosophy of writing, how to formulate logical arguments, transitional words and phrases, and finally, another short sort of a summary of a book called Writing Philosophy Papers. Now, I don't want to scare you off. You're not technically writing a philosophy paper that has to be rigid and objective and fair and balanced and so on. I'm looking to hear your voice, and your voice clearly is subjective. All I'm asking is, when you're doing that, to back up your ideas with examples or facts. That's all. That's really as far as it goes. So there is some information on APA on how to write an essay well. These are the course reflection essays that I just read. There is number 1, also number 2, 3, and 4. You can certainly have a look at those. And the last thing here is, because it's not for a few more weeks, but I wanted to just introduce the idea here under evaluations, under quizzes. Here you will see online midterm test and online final test. As you can see, this one is due February 19th. So that will be the Sunday before our week-long break. Excuse me. That'll be the Sunday before a week-long break, because it will cover modules 1 to 6. And then essentially week 7 is our week off. Then we come back and we finish up modules 8 to 13. So notice how both of these tests are set up so that they are going to be covering the first half of the course and then the second half of the course, strictly speaking. Now, obviously, the dates are from last year, but this one is going to be closing on February 19th, and this one on April 9th. And I think we have the end of that week as the last actual week in school, but that's actually week 14 out of a 15-week schedule. Lots of time. So the online midterm test, I will just speak very briefly about it right now. It's set up in 4 sections. The first will be 10 true-false questions. True-false here in the sense that read the statement carefully, worry less about who says that statement than the statement itself. And if you are comfortable or get a general sense of what superiority theories are, incongruity, relief theory, the origins of humor, and these kinds of things, if you know them in a general sense, you'll do just fine. So I don't write tests to trip people up, to ask them on a certain page, a person says a certain thing, is this right? No, these are just general statements. So are they generally true or false? That's pretty well it. Second section, there's a bit of freedom. Answer 5 or describe and define 5 terms. Now, there's about 12 or 13 of them, so there is lots of choice. So answer only 5. The third part, short answer questions, and those are exactly that. You can answer them in literally 3 sentences. And in the 4th section is going to be sort of a longer essay. I don't like to say essay question because that terrifies people and it causes anxiety. They're simply slightly longer answers. So the first section is worth 10. The second one also worth 10. And then the last 2 sections, 3 and 4, are worth 15 apiece. So the second section, identify and explain, and the 4th section, the longer answer, there is choice. So there are choices in both of those sections. The true, false, and the short answer questions, unfortunately, there isn't, but don't worry about that because if you have a general understanding of the material, you'll do just fine. Okay, so I just wanted to point these things out. The last thing I want to do is just show you just very briefly. I'm going to close or shut down my share first and go back. And this is the kind of writing that I'm looking for. Now, this is a reflection essay here from, this was the term in 2019. This was the way back before the pandemic. And this one I absolutely love because the author of this particular paper was a songwriter, right, who was a lyricist and really had a wonderful way with words. And I told him, said, I look forward to your essays because I love reading them out loud. Because if you look at it, it starts off, reflection essay 4 is the last, you shan't get more. The time is passing fast, rushing out the door. I've inferred the difference between laughter and humor with that ambivalence. I also mentioned the religious objections of humor that can be funny and ethnic. There's a beautiful rhyming pattern here through the entire thing. So this author just had fun with the material. And the reason I'm showing you this is have fun with it. Yes, it's an essay to be marked and it goes towards a final grade, but look forward to it because if you have some ideas that you want to unpack, this is where you want to do it. And if you do it like this, having fun in your writings, however you want to do it, then enjoy it. I want to hear your voice, and clearly here I can hear this student's voice because as a lyricist, he was writing essays as if he was writing songs. And I'm sure I'm not a rapper, nor do I claim to be, but you could hand this to someone and they could literally get you dancing just reading it. It's that good. So there we have the modern stand-up philosopher. Even that alone is a really interesting title because right there, I know what this person may be writing about. So if you do that kind of work, just enjoy it and put your stamp on it, put your subjective stamp on that. That's really where it works well. The last one I want to show you, again, a little bit more straightforward. It should be this one here. And this is one that was written a year ago, so February 6th of 2022. Excessive excess exceeds expectations, right? Someone else having fun with language. Here he talks about Bergson, a 20th century philosopher who wrote a fantastic book about laughter, an essay on the meaning of the comic. An incredibly influential text, it shaped our understanding of humor and comedy for years to come. Perhaps I might even read it someday. In his findings, he throws that in, said, okay, I'm going to read it one day. I know the book exists. I know it's important, but I'd like to talk about Bergson because of what we discuss in the class. Bergson singled out 2 forces that work within a healthy individual that help shape our behavior and perceptions. These forces are tension and elasticity. Very simple, very straightforward, and just your ideas on paper or on the screen. And again, have fun with it. It's a reflective essay. I want you to reflect on the ideas that you have that are formulated by the either the discussions that's maybe generated in your mind as you are reading through the chapters or watching some of the videos and asking yourself, why is this funny? Being introduced to new ideas such as superiority theory, incongruity, relief, play theory, because there's lots of them. And the course gets more and more interesting. Once we have this foundation that we build up in the first half, and we start exploring some more serious issues like the postmodern world and absurdist humor and these kinds of things. So bottom line, have fun with it. Don't sweat the midterm and the final. If I receive enough emails, I can make another video and talk more about it. But I thought if I did this now, it would give you an opportunity to feel up to date, because I know it's exclusively online. I've had a couple of emails from students, and I thought maybe now would be a good time to send out a strategic one, because we don't have a Zoom hour, unfortunately. We don't have a scheduled time of any sort, and we would be spending half the term just trying to settle on a day that is, that's useful for everybody. So I'm going to do this instead, is every few weeks, make a video that will get everyone up to speed. I probably will do one shortly after we come back in the break in February. But if you'd like me to do a separate one on just the midterm, let me know. Okay, so that's pretty well it. I'm not sure how long I've been talking, maybe 15 minutes or so. But any questions, do not hesitate to contact me via email, and we're going to get everything sorted out. And if you wish to have a Zoom meeting instead, we can arrange that as well. I just had one with a student this morning, so that's not a problem. My camera is off only because I wanted you to be able to see the text on the screen. Otherwise, with me in the corner, it's a little bit harder to read. Okay, so that's it. It's Friday. It's pretty drab out there. Hopefully, we shall have a nice weekend with no snow. That's always nice. So we'll talk to each other very soon, and take care. Bye-bye.